Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, an interview-style podcast providing insights on how to lead people. Proudly brought to you by Human Interactions Australia. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Unlocked. I'm joined by Beck Carson. Welcome, Beck. Lovely to have you. She is the General Manager of Vision PT franchises. So, yeah, great to have you. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks, Craig. Happy to be here.
Good stuff. So we're going to talk all things leadership. Tell us a little bit about who you're working for as in Vision Personal Training and what your role is.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, General Manager at Vision Personal Training. We're a franchise business, so we have 53 studios, Eastern Seaboard in Australia and 3 in Auckland. We're a one-on-one PT business specialising in the 40-plus market.
Right.
So, really focused on getting a client a result in a small, unintimidating studio environment.
And so that's really been your niche, hasn't it? That's your differentiator. Because,
absolutely.
Because there are, I think we've talked about before, how many, there's that many gyms out there at the moment, and it's crazy.
Yeah, the group training space is really busy, but, we're very much one-on-one coaching and accountability, a premium service for that older demographic.
Yeah, nice. And 40 plus, that's hard. It's hard to lose weight at 40 plus. It's a lot harder, it seems.
Not as hard, except if you've got someone in your corner coaching you, keeping you accountable to, to your goals. Very big on goal setting as a business. And look, it's not that hard if you're motivated enough and you've got a strong enough why. We'll get you there.
Nice, I love it. So a little bit about your history. So you're GM. You're only, 22, 23?
Stop it.
Okay, stop. Okay. So tell us, because you FMCG?
Yes,
right?
FMCG background. I worked for Campbell Arnott's. So back when Arnott's was owned by the Campbell Soup Company.
Yeah.
Joined that business as a graduate. Yeah. Actually joined as an analyst, not even knowing really the role that you're applying for.
Business analyst?
Business analyst,
yeah. Right,
okay. Then actually went into sales before my longest stint was actually in marketing across both the Campbell side of the business and the Arnott side of the business.
Okay.
I was there 17 years.
Wow.
Before I left and did a stint at another health food company, some consulting work in the mix, and then joined Vision just on 7 years ago.
Wow. So what did you study at uni?
Business, majoring in marketing and management.
Right, okay. So that's the well-rounded result there. So 17 years, one company, big company.
Big company.
How many people were you leading at some points in time in your career?
Well, it really differed throughout that journey. Obviously, when I first started, I didn't specifically have a team, but when I moved into a sales role, so we had a territory manager out on the road. I had a team of 15 part-time employees. Back in the days where I used to employ merchandisers to stock the shelves.
Yeah.
So that was a real challenge being quite young, 22, and having a big team. Everyone, of course, much older than me.
Yeah.
So that's probably my first foray into managing a team. And then varying team sizes and shapes depending on the role over the subsequent years from that.
So let's touch that a bit, because that's a really interesting situation. You're 22 years of age. Most people were older than you?
Oh, absolutely. We employed part-time, a lot of mums, who work school hours or odd shifts.
Who know better.
Of course.
Right. What did you learn? What were some of the trials and tribulations through that situation? Because I think there's some great learnings for people.
It definitely gave me a sense of, and often when you're employed in a part-time capacity, you have a lot of other responsibilities, right? So for me, it was about making sure that I'd rostered people appropriately. I knew that the work was going to get done, checking in on them, making sure that what they committed to had in fact been done, because you were managing people remotely a lot of the time and pretty much working from your car. So, definitely just the ability to relate to people as well in terms of where they were at. They were having a totally different experience. I was employed full-time, no kids, all that kind of stuff back then. So finding different ways to relate to that team and connect with people, making sure you had that coffee catch-up with someone who you might not have seen for a couple of weeks, checking in on them, And
did you build like a bit of a schedule for yourself, a bit of a roster in your head about, okay, I need to see these guys once a month or once a week or once a fortnight, or Or was it a bit willy-nilly when you got
Everything was planned the week before. So, pretty much knowing what store needed what level of service and at what point in time that staff member was going to be visiting that store and trying to catch up with them at that point as well. I'm a pretty organised person.
Sure.
So, I like to have that structure. That's something that's always been with me. I'm ruthless about diary management now. But, that was key to make sure that you actually have that face-to-face.
Yeah. And you say that you felt like that was a way of connecting with them. People want to be connected or connect different ways, or you need to touch into different needs. How did, at 22, no offence, but you're not knowing the whole psyche of people at that age, there must have been some times when you stuffed up a little bit.
Oh, definitely, because, my priority is getting the job done and their priority is they've got a sick kid that day, so I'm sure I probably was more direct than I needed to be in certain situations and, through the benefit of experience, I think you get more of an understanding. But, it was definitely a challenging role.
And connecting with different people, as we said, how did you tap into that?
Oh, I can't even remember doing it back then. I think that probably I take the time to get to know someone. I think if you have a better understanding of their life, what's going on, know their kids' names, do the phone check-in, really trying to understand the person and their journey and really what they're trying to achieve. Yeah. I think that, that can provide you a little window into building a relationship that you might not otherwise get to if you're just having those superficial conversations. Yeah. So,
I think that's probably just as important now with what's happened with COVID and so forth, and how that's affected people's mental well-being. Understanding people is probably even more of a priority than ever, even though we're so distant and computers and blah blah. But I still think we need to understand the people that we're working with.
Exactly. As recent as last week, we were doing an exercise with our HQ team. We've had a couple of new members join, and really sitting down with them and understanding like the timeline of their life and how they got to this point. What are those events that have shaped them? How did they grow up? What was their family like? Really understanding that background, I think helps you build that relationship and understand why they are the way they are, why they do what they do.
Because I'd imagine you're getting PTs come through as a change of career, right? They've decided they were doing, I don't know, garbage collecting, or they were accountants or whatever, and then they've decided, no, I like a bit of fitness, and they've totally pivoted, really.
It's such a mix, Craig. Like, we get a lot of people who have, young guys who have just come through their courses and they're really enthusiastic. This is their first foray into the industry. We get people who have had a career change, whether they've done a trade or what have you, and then have always had a passion for health and fitness, then decide to make it their career. Yeah. And then I have people who have come through our business as clients who then go and get certified and become a trainer. I've got franchise partners who were in fact clients who then became a trainer, who are now a franchise partner. Yeah, so all facets.
Yeah, interesting. So 22, you were in that role for a while. Talk us to the story. What happened for next leadership roles? Where did you go after that?
So I actually was never super passionate about taking that role, but I had a couple of mentors in the business who said sales experience will obviously set you up in good stead. You need to understand how supermarket operations work on the ground, week in, week out. So I did that role for about 18 months, and then I was promoted into the marketing department. Okay. Assistant brand manager, Tim Tam. Like, seriously, is there a better job in Australia? Like, at 23, what better job is there? So, that was my first stint into marketing. Worked my way up in the chocolate portfolio, group marketing manager chocolate. So
you didn't work your way out of that, by the way. You didn't get large.
Not great. Well, we did talk about the Arnott's 5 kilos that attaches itself to people when they walk in the door and they try all their childhood favourites.
Oh my gosh.
But no, always had a passion for health.
And did you have a team then that you were managing?
Yes.
Leading there?
Yeah, had a team of 4 in that department.
Yeah. So different people.
Different people. Yeah, different people again. So, I had people who were younger than me, people who were older than me in that department. So always different leadership challenges depending on the role. Again, they're all full-time employees, so that's a different, and in a corporate environment again. So we're sitting in a cubicle together.
Sure.
So numerous challenges.
And they're bringing, because they're there every day, they're bringing all their home stuff in with them every day. So that can be Interesting.
Yeah, and you've got, you know, people, a particular guy that was, you know, sort of, he was really happy in his role, not really ambitious, wanted to sit in, you know, that role. And then you've got junior people who are super ambitious, looking at new opportunities. So a mix of understanding other people's goals.
Did you ever find in those roles that you were an in-betweener, meaning, you know, you were probably involved in meetings with senior managers and you knew what direction and strategy was going to be taken, but then you were also this person's boss and you needed to almost be a filter for this information that needed to come through, because there'd be information or strategy that perhaps these guys are not going to like, but you knew you had to deliver that message. Did you ever find yourself struggling with that at times?
Yeah, well, definitely. It's pretty ruthless, right?
Yeah, right.
That environment.
FMCGs.
Wall Street listed company, so, you know, obviously there's expectations that come with that. Yeah, and definitely, you know, of course, I was probably, you know, a junior burger sitting in the boardroom going, this is a crap decision, I don't think we could do this better. But, you know, you always try and have that, I guess, that enterprise-wide mindset to really understand all the competing factors. And I think that's great, like, just in terms of being curious about business and understanding why and like how those decisions get made. And then making sure that you're always supporting your team, right? That it's in the best interest of the team and navigating that accordingly.
So corporate is tough.
Yep.
It is fairly cutthroat, and that industry is far out. The amount of competition amongst product is ridiculous, especially now. How did you deal with people that you knew weren't going to be on the bus? Like, they have to come along with for the ride. And there's that statement, you know, quick to fire, you know, slow to hire. What are your thoughts about how you manage those people that they're struggling, or you're struggling with them, or they're struggling with the concept of the business?
As cutthroat as corporate is, probably in contrast to, you know, other experiences I've had, is that you're actually surrounded by really smart people. You've got a great HR team, you've got an awesome in-house legal counsel, you've got someone managing PR. Like I loved that beautiful expertise that comes with that. I think if you're, like, you know, and a really strong performance management process. Like if you're not meeting the mark, or if you've got a team member that's not meeting the mark, there's a structured process that follows that you actually, you know, exit someone the right way. So it's probably coming to that decision yourself is always incredibly challenging, right? Is this person actually going to make it or not? And
are you basing that decision on all data as well? Like, what don't you know about this person for them to be behaving a particular way, right? So It comes back to knowing them. So, yeah. And so how about for you? I know for a lot of people, even though you've got a solid, you know, PM structure in place, performance management structure in place, you're still a human being.
Yep.
And I know you reasonably well. I don't know you that well, but I know you reasonably well. You've got a heart.
I like to think so.
So that's a struggle sometimes for lots of leaders, is that the emotional piece can sometimes taint our decision-making, even though we've got a great structure in place. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and like inherently you want people to succeed, right? You want them to do well. The only way that, and you know, probably the last few years we've had to make more tougher decisions than ever. But the only way that I personally deal with that is if I feel like I have given that person 100% opportunity. I've set that, have I done everything I can to make this person successful? And if I put my head on the pillow at night and say, yep, I absolutely gave them the best shot, and it hasn't worked out, then I'm good with that, and I'm good with that. But if I feel like, oh, could I have done better? Could I have supported them more? Could I have, till I've made that decision, like for myself, then I wrestle with it. But once I feel like, yep, I've done everything I can, I couldn't have done anything differently, I've given this person the best shot, that's probably how I rationalise it.
And there would have been times when you did put your head on the pillow and you went, oops.
Oh, do you know what? Generally, though, there's probably been other struggles, and sometimes I think, you know, when someone is trying their best, but they're not going to succeed. You know, they're not going to succeed. I've seen other people go on to do other brilliant and better things. You know, sometimes it's the best thing, right? It's the best thing for the team, for them. You it works out for the best.
And they don't see it at the time. They don't feel it at the time. And we may feel a bit emotionally, challenged as well. But often it is the best thing for them just to move on, isn't it?
Yep.
Like whatever that role could be.
Absolutely.
And you see people go into roles that they shouldn't have got into in the first place. That's that theory about people being promoted to their highest capability and then they fail. And you say, well, you were great at sales. Why don't you just stay at sales?
Yeah.
If that's what you love doing. And
play
you're
to
good
your strengths.
Play to your strengths. And my dad wasn't the most intelligent man in the world, I wouldn't say, but, he never ever wanted to be a sales manager. He always just wanted to be out on the road selling. That was his strength. And he loved it. To the point that it didn't matter where we went anywhere in the country, you'd always see somebody he knew.
Yeah.
But that was what he loved doing. I kind of admire that part of Dad, that he knew what his strength was and he stuck to it. So
definitely, that's part of his identity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you now, what are we, so 22, we're now like 24, 25, 26. You're still young and you're in these leadership roles. What happened then? Where did it go?
I felt like after my last role was brand director of the savoury department. Jats, Shapes, Vita Salada, Croskets, all those wonderful brands.
Not as fun as chocolate.
Not as fun as chocolate, but definitely the healthier side of the business.
Yeah.
That's like the profit centre of the business. So once I'd done that role, I felt like I knew the business, and you get new people who have got all these ideas and you're like, yeah, tried that before. Didn't work. And you know what? I've done it's time to go.
Yeah. Knock yourself out, champ. Yeah. Have a crack.
Yeah. So, I was going to have some time off, but I just thought, I'll just put a few feelers out there. And I emailed a particular CEO of a health food company, and he was travelling at the time. And I said, look, I'd love to have a coffee, catch up, learn about your business. He emailed me back within about 10 minutes and said, I'm back in Sydney next week. I had a job straight after that.
Oh.
So interesting journey. I was always really passionate about nutrition, health, fitness, etc. So that was the move into that. I really wanted to create healthier food that I was happy to put in my kids' lunchbox.
Isn't that difficult? My gosh, that's the hardest thing every morning. Trying to put a healthy food into a kid's lunchbox. That does my head in. That's another podcast.
Happy to talk about that.
Oh my! So that's interesting. So whilst you're in Vision, there's been a basis of health, fitness, nutrition for a long time.
This is just the other side of the coin for me. I'm really passionate about improving people's well-being, improving their lives, whether that's nutrition and exercise, which go hand in hand for me. Yes, my background's in food, but I've always weight trained, looked after myself. I think that's just so key to your physical and emotional well-being.
Yes.
It's all linked, right? And I saw so many people in that corporate environment not look after themselves.
Scary.
And how do you perform at your best when you're not exercising, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well? It's detrimental, right?
I think, again, it's slightly aside, but it's lovely to see at the moment. It doesn't matter whether you're paleo, whether you're keto, whether you're intermittent fasting or whatever it is, there is some commonality finally coming through about nutrition. Finally, which I'm really, really happy about, because, oh no, I do this or I do that or I do... Okay, but if you exercise, you sleep, and you eat, real foods, you're in pretty good shape. Innuendos with other stuff, but it's okay.
Exactly. It's not that complicated.
It's not as complicated as people want to make it to be, it seems. So, interesting. So when you went to this health food place, did you go to improve your leadership skills? Did you go to improve your marketing business expertise or exposure? Was there I know you've been done here, but what were you trying?
Smaller company, ASX listed. I really saw a massive opportunity. I felt like they were playing small. Definitely more in the allergen-free space. There was definitely an opportunity to reinvent that product portfolio into a health food company, not for specific dietary needs.
Nice.
It definitely gave me an opportunity to, I guess, be in an environment where I could make more decisions. There was more autonomy, more control locally, which was all great. But interestingly enough, when I jumped into that role, and I was in that role 3 years, so GM marketing and commercial for that business, cereal, snacks, almond milk, non-dairy alternatives, that kind of stuff. Values alignment was so off for me. Like, you know, when you get under the hood and the way they did business is not how I did business.
Yeah.
And I probably should have called it earlier because I thought I could fix it.
Ah, really?
And there's some things that you can't fix. Yeah.
And it grated, right?
Yeah, absolutely grated. Yep.
Geez, Jamie must have been happy about that every night. You'd come home and talk to him about
He's a very patient man. So I stayed there 3 years attempting to fix it, and look, it deteriorated after I left, so it definitely got worse. You can probably guess the company or what have you, but and then I thought, you know what, actually I'm really passionate about this, I want to do this for me. So then I did some consulting work after leaving there.
So what in that role, values misalign, and I'm massive on values. In fact, I only had a conversation with a girl yesterday saying, what are you, like, you're making these big decisions about your future, but what are your values? What drives you? And I know she's done the values because I did them with her in a workshop about 5 years ago. So dig them out, because they're kind of the basis of any goal that you set as values. So the values are misaligned. You're sitting in there. You thought you could change them. What was the realisation to go, I can't? What happened for you to go, no, I can't change it? And why did you even think you could change it in the first place, right? This as another person's business.
I'm I really appreciate that 17 years at Arnott's and the rigour of my training and development and what happened there, and the way, you know, it's as transparent as I think a corporate environment could have been at the time, but then realising that, you know, I'm turning up to a meeting, but the CEO has had a conversation with the CFO previously, and not all information is what it seems, and yet decisions are being made outside of that forum, and it just, like, ethically it just didn't sit well. I couldn't do my best work when you don't have all the information in front of you, can't manage the team effectively.
It's too many unknowns.
So I really wrestled with that, but you know, I'm such a, like, I can head down, work harder. We can do this. to
Determined sod.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like. So
what's the lessons out of that? Like, if you think about that situation, like the word that comes to my head, and I'm thinking transparency there. How transparent are you now in the roles that you're in and with the team? Because obviously it wasn't that transparent when you were
No. Well, pretty much now. We have a small HQ team, so about 12. There's separate departments that are outsourced, contract, etc. But I like to think I'm really transparent. So I talk about our network, like 53 students. It's like we've got 53 bosses, right? So who all expect something from me.
Yeah.
I think I'm better at being really clear about strategy in terms of where we're headed, what the goals are, and really try my best to create forums for feedback where people feel like they have access to be able to provide that feedback, and not just to me, but also our CEO and founder, who's obviously involved with the business. Quite open and transparent in terms of, if you've got an idea, if you've got a question, a challenge, what have you, please let us know. I also have a leadership, I call it a leadership council, but it's our top 5 franchisees who are peer elected and HQ nominated, who a group I can go to with a, hey, we've just got this, what do you guys think about this? And by the same token, they raise issues across the network and bring it to me as well.
Brilliant. Do you find, like, often corporates and companies will say they've got these feedback mechanisms, but it's kind of a bit of a token thing? Are you finding people are using it? Are you getting that feedback?
Definitely, and probably one of the biggest challenges we had, you can imagine the fitness industry obviously did it really tough through COVID, that horrible period. And, everyone's on edge. There's a whole lot of emotional energy. People aren't happy. So I actually got in the Franchise Relationships Institute, so an external body, specialist in franchising, to run their ACE satisfaction survey for us. So an anonymous survey right across the network.
Yeah.
They benchmark us versus other networks on, a whole load of metrics, be that, performance, lifestyle, satisfaction with the franchise, support services, a whole load of stuff. Workshop that feedback with the network, so got FRI in, prioritise the initiatives, and then make progress on that. So we went through the second survey in March this year, and I was so thrilled to see our scores were just off the charts. So constantly hearing that feedback, but actioning it. is the key. Like people will stop giving you feedback if
Otherwise
you don't do
it's
anything
just rhetoric and nothing happens, right? So that's amazing. So there's an actual institute that just does that.
Benchmarking franchise networks right across the world.
Wow.
They're specialists in franchising. Franchising, and I feel like until you've actually worked in it, you can never, like, you understand what a franchise model is, but you can't appreciate the intricacies and the relationships that happen. And
I've had exposure to, it wasn't called a franchise, but it was, and large, like national, and I was training, training the franchise owners, training the sales team, training the customer service team, 3 days every quarter in every state for about 5 or 6 years. And I know some of the intricacies of the relationship was phenomenal. Like, there were times when I go around, I'm stopping, you need to talk to the franchise or before we do any of this training, because you've got some other issues that need to be sorted out first. We had to do that a couple of times. And that relationship, that's tough. That was really tough managing those guys, right?
Absolutely.
My hat. So you're managing 53 people. If you do a normal, org chart, you're not supposed to have any more than 4 people reporting to you, Beck. I don't know if you have 53 of those suckers.
Obviously, I have a great team who manage those relationships, like on a regular basis. But yes, it's a big network, and it's great though. Like, our network, when you get together, it's like a reunion. They all know each other.
Yeah.
They ask each other for advice. So it is very collaborative. I know now I'm actually part of a networking group put together by the Franchise Council of Australia, where GMs of other franchise networks, we all get together once a month. I call it my therapy session.
Nice.
But I know not all networks are like ours. We are pretty lucky with what we have, and sometimes you don't get that outside perspective. You actually realise we've got something pretty special here.
Yeah. And is that a facilitated session that somebody does for you?
Yeah, well, we have a chair who he's also a CEO of a franchise network, and a lot of our challenges are similar. It might be like a courier company, a hairdressing franchise, but we have similar issues, concerns, and can lean on each other for advice.
I think you haven't said it, but I'm going to assume that one of the things that comes out with this stuff is typically it's people issues. Because I used to facilitate forum groups for Family Business Association as well. So different companies from different industries come together once a month, and how many times they would have similar issues even though they were different industry, but often was people. People was that toughest part. Are you still finding managing people tough at times?
Yeah, it's people issues, it's compliance issues, it's a change to the franchising code, which the government love to do. We'll all be going through those same changes at the same time.
Yeah.
So I just find it's so helpful to go, hey, this is what's going well, this is what's challenging. Hey, has anyone done this before?
Yeah.
And they'll be like,
please.
Oh, I have. I'll send you something.
That go? Yeah.
Great. Or does anyone have a contact who can help me with this? And they're just such a great group. I love
awesome.
love.
And is it once a month?
Once a month.
Brilliant. Wow. And so over your years, a few years of being in leadership roles, what have you learnt? What are some of the key things that you go, this is what I've learned and this is what I make sure I do on a regular basis still?
On a regular basis, I'm ruthless about my diary. I'm always trying to refine how to get those weekly habits and the rhythm of business to be more efficient and effective.
The rhythm of business, I love that.
Like, the week in, week out meetings that you have. Like,
yeah.
I was fortunate enough to do a workshop with Vern Harnish.
Yeah, nice.
Scaling Up is a brilliant book. If anyone hasn't read it, please read it.
As is his other one, the Rockefeller Files.
Oh, Rockefeller Habits.
Rockefeller Habits, yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic book. Yes.
So even for as recent as it's probably been about 8 months now, we've been doing a team huddle every morning.
Beautiful.
8:48 till 9 o'clock.
Love it.
Everyone comes with exactly what their priorities for the day and any roadblocks they're facing. So my HQ team dial into that. Even if they're on the road, wherever they are, we see each other face to face. And it's actually really good for the office guys to know where the guys are on the road, how we can mitigate any issues that way. We do Monday is usually my all-in meeting day, management meeting, my management team, straight into operations meetings, and then one-on-ones that follow that on a Monday to set everyone up for the week. So trying to extract the most value, I think, of the communication, which is really key, because it's just...
You're quite compartmentalised, which is wonderful. Like, a lot of people can get that a little bit greyed, but the fact that you've got, okay, I know who this team is and what their roles are, then I know what, this team is and what their roles are. You seem to have that really, really set nicely.
And taking lessons that I think is working from Vern specifically, having a scoreboard, making it visual. What are we trying to achieve? Updating that every week. Making sure people, come to that meeting. For our ops meeting, for example, people come with, give me a piece of good news, both personal and professional from the week prior, before we get into the detail. Again, that kind of get to know each other a little bit better, Did your kid win soccer on the weekend? But, trying to create that team, we're all on the same page. It's like, I would say it's absolutely working. Can it be better always?
Yeah, so you're all, it seems to me, what is it? Is it the Japanese term, kanenzo?
Kaizen.
Kaizen. Is it kaizen? Kaizen, which is that continuous improvement.
Absolutely.
We sound like we know what we're talking about. Yeah, continuous improvement is, you're always looking at that.
Definitely.
Some of the lessons that you've learned that you may not want to share, but you might share with me. You go, I wouldn't do that anymore.
I was probably a bad leader in the early days.
I was.
I definitely have perfectionistic tendency, right? Okay. So I definitely in my early years, looking back at it, I think I was probably more inclined. I was so focused on getting the result. I would have micromanaged people for sure. Where, delegating tasks, not delegating responsibility for the outcome.
Yeah.
So I think no one likes to work like that, right? So, that's definitely a key thing.
And at 22, you're going to do that because you're trying to look at me, I'm the boss type person, right? So you're trying to, how do I boss? Did you learn from anybody how to be a boss, how to be a leader?
I think you learn as much from when you've had brilliant bosses as when you've had terrible ones as well, right? I've had a combination of all of them.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, but, you always have that one boss who you think was an absolute weapon, right?
Yeah. Let's put a big smile on your face. What did you learn from the boss that was a weapon that was just amazing? You can name it if you want to.
Jacqueline Chow, I'm happy to mention her. She's an absolute weapon. She's now on so many boards, Coles, Boral.
Awesome.
NIB, I think. She's an absolute weapon. But she was definitely authentic and real, took the time to get everyone to know everyone. Even when she was in that GM role, there was probably a couple of hundred people sitting on the floor, but really taking that time to have that conversation with you, look you in the eyes, ask you how your kids were, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But also, and she definitely taught me probably how to lean into a tough conversation better than probably anyone I've ever worked for before.
Yeah, wonderful. So if you talked about mentors before, so you've had some mentors around you, which is nice. If you were in a mentor role and you had to mentor a new leader or a leader that's been there for 5-10 years, what's some key things that you would share with them and say, these are the 3 things that I think are important as a leader?
3 things.
Only 3. I know you could go on all day, but it's okay.
I think definitely not. I probably took it too seriously when I was younger. Put myself under so much pressure. Like it can be enjoyable. It can actually be really fun. You can go to work with great people and work on some brilliant projects, but I probably didn't appreciate it. That at the time when you're that young and you're definitely driven to succeed. Like, stop taking yourself so seriously. Delegate better, because no one is going to do it like you, and even though in your head you think the way that you do it is perfect, someone else will actually get the result even in a different way that you probably didn't appreciate, but let them do it.
I liked your comment before, don't just delegate the task, delegate the responsibility, I think
for that outcome, like the project.
It's a wonderful way of looking at it.
Well, otherwise you don't really have ownership.
And you're just doing. 3rd?
I'm struggling. Probably just make the tough decision earlier, I think. But, you can cause yourself a lot of angst, I think.
It's really easy to just ruminate on it, isn't it? And then it just makes it worse often for everybody, for the person or even for you. Awesome chat. I've got to apologise somewhat, because obviously we know each other through the school, and we don't really know each other that well. And I've seen you in those amazing sales roles. Well, now I understand why. I had no idea of your background and your experience and your the results that you've achieved, and I admire what you've done, and I didn't know that, and I wish I had known that. So I apologise that I haven't found that out earlier, because it's been an absolute delight to have you on this episode. And I'm glad we got talking of the Athletics Carnival.
Yeah.
And I just clicked and went, hang on, there's more to this lady that I know, and she needs to be on this podcast. So thank you so, so much for being part of it and sharing your expertise, which I hope will help other people.
No, thank you, Craig. It's been so nice and great for our kids to be great friends as well.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah,
it's cool.
absolutely.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, Craig.